OMG, I did it all again. Had to prove it to myself this time. Took a shot and got another win. Better than anyone else with mine. Now they all wanna do it like me. Ooh, this shit is lifey. We booming, yeah, rumors are flying. Everyone assuming, yeah, it's all just a game of truth or dare. Luckily, I got it all covered. Ooh, boy, you should see the projections. I'm coming for all of it. Luckily, I don't need any more best friends. I'm back on my wave now. I used to wanna do the press. I don't got no shit to say now. They just wanna talk about some dumb shit. I don't play down.
What's good?
Yo.
Podcast 5.
Down, no way.
Special guest in the building.
What's up?
We got any, I gotta open my DJ software again.
Wow. Not prepared.
Hang on, wait for it.
Hit me with some of those, like, the weird guy grunting clips.
Special guest in the building. Oh, we gotta turn that up.
Yeah, I can't even hear it. That just gets me pumped up.
Joel, NobodyEpic in the building. What's going on?
Not much. How you guys doing?
Cannot complain.
Yeah. So weekend discussion. We got to start with the weekend discussion. First of all, Joel, how was your weekend?
It was great, guys. I went house hunting yesterday with the wife and the bro. That was interesting. And I don't remember what I did. Oh, well, Friday, babysat my nephew. Did some, watched some Disney Channel stuff. And I don't remember what Saturday was. But Sunday and Friday were solid. All-star game last night.
So you're really on that grown life.
I'm really on that grown life. I'm paying taxes this week. Meet my accountant. I was saying that at the start of 2018 to my friends and on videos and stuff. This really feels like the first year. I got health insurance again for the first time at the start of this year through my wife, who's working full-time job. Shouts out to her.
You didn't have health insurance before?
I didn't have health insurance for a year and a half, man.
Edge.
I was living that risky life.
You can't be playing rec basketball.
Well, that's what you were talking on that about. Matt's like, I don't want to go out and play basketball or something like that. I was like, I feel that, man. I'll stay in my bubble, dude. I don't want to go injure myself. I had this nightmare one time that my appendix burst in the middle of the night and the scary part wasn't the appendix. It was how much it was going to cost. If I had to get that out, I was going to go to my kitchen and warm up a knife and just do some 1700s of surgery on myself.
That is the realness.
But I woke up and my appendix was still there, I think. I don't know. You don't really feel that shit.
Well, we're happy it is, Joel. And we're happy you made it. I know you were thinking about going to All-Star weekend.
Okay, I wasn't thinking about. I was hoping to get invited. That probably sounded so pretentious in the text. Like, I literally texted this dude. I was like, "There's a 70%, or no, I said there's a 25% chance I'm going to the All-Star game." So of course, at the end of the last podcast, you're like, "There's a 75% chance Joel will be here. 25% chance he's going to the All-Star game." And of course, other YouTubers in the YouTube gaming side got to go. I didn't get to go, which is a major bummer. But
anyone specific you were looking to the invite for that didn't come through? That you want to call out?
No. Well, obviously not. I'm trying to get an invite next year. Dude. What are you talking about?
Okay.
No, everyone's great. Everyone made the right decision for themselves. If they could invite me next year, to make a slightly better decision for themselves.
What were you up to this weekend, Mo?
Man, what did I do
besides
last
being
weekend?
Drunk on Twitter?
I got
talking shit.
Real hammered. Talked a lot of shit about G-Eazy.
What?
Yeah, you didn't.
I saw,
you didn't
I saw
see that.
His,
you didn't see that Twitter?
I saw he said something like, "I'm sorry for what I did last night," and I didn't see what he did.
Is
last
it still
night.
up, or did you delete?
No, I don't delete.
Good. Let me look. So this was what, Saturday night?
I wish I would have slicked my hair back.
Yeah, Saturday night. Yeah.
Saturday night.
Be looking like him.
Oh, here we go. So we're just randomly out at like a restaurant. It's Mo, his wife, my girlfriend, and my sister.
I saw you tweet something like, "This dude needs to get off Twitter."
Yeah.
And then there's this hilarious picture of like him like sitting back with his arms eyes closed.
Yeah. He was faded already, and all of a sudden, no one knows he's tweeting. We're just all having conversation, and I look at Twitter, and Moe-T pops up. Proof the music industry is rigged. G-Eazy is a legitimate rapper. And I think he had just heard like a G-Eazy song in the restaurant and just decided he was going to go to Twitter and not say anything to anyone and just tweet about it. And then he starts getting into it. The one that I laughed at the most was then he follows it up with really disappointed that our fans think G-Eazy is a real rapper.
That's what I wanted to apologize for.
You can't just have some mozzarella sticks.
Right. But then there was somebody replied to that, and I want to find it because it was someone that like they really wanted to kind of agree with you, but just it was a really nice long comment. But like it offered a little bit of an opinion, but it was not just like, no, you're wrong. And Matt's reply to it was no.
Wow, man.
Yeah, he was on one.
Spreading the love on social media.
Yeah, but I knew he was drunk early on.
This is why I don't tweet very often, because there are backstories to what I'm saying, and I don't explain it. I'm not politically correct enough for Twitter.
I know, when I see you on Twitter, I'm like, man, he's a lot nicer than that in person. So sometimes he gets real straight with you on Twitter.
Well, he followed that up with, I'm going into depth about this. Tune into the podcast on Monday. So I wanted to see if he was going to stand by his comments 100%.
I really don't want you to take more than 5 minutes on your G-Eazy.
No, I don't need to.
This is the
It's very simple.
This is the mindset he was in at the time, though, because he also decided to, about a half hour later, go, J. Cole, extremely overrated. and then I went,
excuse me.
And then I went, what?
I will walk off this podcast.
And then he goes, I go, so where do you rank him in your top? And I go, and he goes, well, you got Drake, Kendrick, and then him. I was like, so he's number 3 and he's extremely overrated? He's number 3 to you and he's extremely overrated? Makes no sense.
But where that's coming from is I live in a family of J. Cole super fans, and so I don't think he's as cool as you and our sister does.
Oh, so I was gonna say just your brother and your sister then.
Yeah. Well, I'm surrounded. I'm surrounded by it. I'm surrounded by it my entire life. So.
Well, you think he's number 3, so he can't be extremely overrated.
And that was poor choice of words.
All right. Anything you want to say about G-Eazy quickly before we move on?
G-Eazy, overrated rapper, great artist. As far as what
that
he's,
seems properly
and that's
rated.
That's all I was saying when you were on one that night. I was like, that's fine. I don't think he's the dopest rapper, but I think he's a really good artist.
See, and that's the thing. Like, I need to be all politically correct and say, well, what I mean is he's a not that great of a rapper, but I do respect his grind and hustle for marketing and everything like that, because you don't just get that big without that. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, he's fine, and he picks dope beats. I think that's the other thing.
I think the main thing is
he's got an ear.
You just don't need to be disappointed that our fans.
Well,
like
and that was the thing I was apologizing for on Twitter. That was out of out of
enough about
disappointed.
Out of yeah. I'm a disappointed father.
Get off my timeline.
Some fan was like, "Well, it wouldn't be the first time I've disappointed someone." Anyways, enough about that. What do we got? Podcast number 5.
Yep.
Podcast number 5, our first guest, NobodyEpic, here with us.
I wrote down topics on my phone, so if on the camera, if I'm looking at my phone, I'm looking at notes. I'm not looking at text messages. Like, man, this podcast is boring. Let me do some business emails real quick.
So let's jump right into things. I just kind of wanted to start off getting you talking. We had a podcast earlier when Mo and I talked about a lot of the period of time where we were kind of coming up with the music, and we started linking up with you, I think, around 2011, 2012-ish. Okay. And
early 2012.
Yeah, and I just wanted to, I guess, get a little bit of, without being too vague of a question, I wanted to just get you kind of talking about that period of time and let the fans in on a little bit of perspective from your side.
Yeah, so we've always lived in the same area, Lansing area. We didn't go to the same schools, but the reason I initially approached you guys about using your music is, first of all, there's this thing called copyright, so I can't just use Kanye West music on my videos. Otherwise, I mean, you guys would have been out.
So we weren't your first choice.
Yeah, you weren't choices 1 through 30. No, damn. But for non-copyright, for non-copyright, top of the heap.
Okay.
Non-copyright issues, but yeah. So I was, making videos. I started late summer 2011, and I was just kind of doing it off and on. I posted my first video. I didn't get any subscribers for my first month, so I kind of felt like, man, this is a lame thing to do. But then started picking up when I met some friends doing the same thing at the end of 2011. And then I wanted to post this series, which was a compilation of a bunch of funny clips my friends and I got playing video games over the course of a week, called it Shit from Last Week. Mm-hmm. And I wanted a cool intro song. I don't even remember if I used your song on the first episode, but I feel like I did, because I'll just get ideas for things. It'll just pop into my head, and it's like, this needs to happen this way, and it'll have this song or have this kind of sound. And when I heard Refs, which was posted on YouTube at the time, I was like, that needs to be the intro song. That part of it needs to be that thing because that's how I see it in my head. So I felt comfortable asking you guys to use that music because I didn't know you guys directly, but we had similar friends. You know, this isn't a super huge area, and people know each other, and especially like Packy's closer to my age, and he played me in basketball multiple times in elementary school, in the summers, middle school, and high school, and all that. So I felt comfortable enough to ask because I really could not see myself making this series without that song, making this shit from last week without that ref's intro, just because I pictured it in my head. And honestly, if you guys would have said no, you probably should have said no because I would have been like, I will pay you for this. I do not have any money at this point, but I will sell my blood to use this song because I really want this. And then
that's funny, but that would have been
from there.
That would have been absolutely idiotic of us.
Would have been a shrewd business. You should have done it, man. You should have been like, no. I would be like, all right, offered to.
How many subscribers do you think you had on your channel at that point?
Oh, I know I had less than 1,000, I think.
No, not when you asked us about that.
Maybe I had 1,000. So
really,
he wasn't that.
It was like that.
Yeah.
In September of 2011 I think that's when I crossed over 100 because August was when I was first. I think my first video was posted in August of 2011, and then when I met my friend Speed, he liked one of my videos and it got me like 43 subscribers overnight, which felt like, oh my god, like I have a heart attack.
Right.
Yeah, because there was I remember like the stretch of exponential growth was like I had about 1,000 by the end of 2011, if that. I don't know, but I feel like it was early 2012, and then I got 100,000 within that from 2011 to 2012. Okay. So that was a big boom. It was like I started using your music when I was first growing really quickly.
So do you think organic. It was our music that did it for you, that grew your channel?
Just your music. It's like this guy's videos are trash, but the soundtrack is not. It's like when you see a bad movie, but the soundtrack's good. Like, I don't like this movie, but I will bang the soundtrack.
That's funny though, because I guess just because it was so long ago, I kind of forget that when you started doing shit from last week and that you weren't already some massive channel.
Yeah.
And we kind of, even though your channel's growth was exponentially more than ours, we did kind of hit that spark around the same time with our channels. Right. Obviously, yours helped ours, but I think people, and even I, have a misconception sometimes when I look back of like, Joel started using our music with his big YouTube channel, and all of a sudden that just started pushing some traffic to our YouTube channel, but it wasn't necessarily that way at the beginning.
No, and you had the good point about posting your music everywhere so you get the most potential opportunities, because honestly, I wasn't really crawling around SoundCloud at that time, so if you were just posting on SoundCloud, I would not have seen that song. That song was on YouTube, and I was probably you shared it on Facebook because we have similar Facebook friends. It probably popped up. I don't know if we were friends on Facebook at that time, but that's probably where I saw it from. And then I didn't have like a lot of clout at that time, a lot of subscribers, so I felt kind of comfortable asking people I knew secondhand for music.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I do remember that just because I remember the first time that you hit us up for that, and it was a slow, very slow like growth as far as, because from the first time that you asked us to use that to when I actually saw people coming from your channel to our channel and commenting, NobodyEpic sent me here. That was when, but that wasn't, it felt like immediately when we talk about it today, but it wasn't.
It's so long ago. It just blends together.
Yeah, it's like, because in my head, I always catch myself thinking that was like Joel hit us up, and then a month later that started happening, and it wasn't like that. It was like 6 months.
Yeah, even when you guys talked about, you guys did kind of a quick synopsis pod. I don't know if that was number 3 of the history of you guys together, and you can say it in this condensed time frame, but I kind of just from knowing you guys, and even when I didn't know you directly, I just know this stuff was happening over a long period of time. Things seem to move faster on the internet. It makes things seem like they weren't that long ago.
Yeah, right. And that whole 2012, I always look back on, and I guess it's probably somewhat similar to you, is that was a big year where a lot of things happened and a lot of growth happened in a short period of time. So it's tough to look back and be like, okay, this is exactly when Joel started using the music, and this is when this happened. It's just kind of all crunched into like a year's period of time.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just interesting for me to think about, like, you've probably told your subscribers a lot about you and the crew, how you guys linked up and how that helped grow all of your YouTube channels. Maybe just, is there anything you can mention as far as relating that to, because I know we have a lot of people interested in how to grow their YouTube channels and how to grow their business and stuff, as far as taking that launching point, like going from, like you talked about, you went a month with no subscribers and then all of a sudden maybe 1,000 and then the jump.
Well, it's a tough thing because so much luck is involved, but to get lucky, you have to show up. It's like if you were trying to win the lottery, you have a small chance of winning the lottery, but you have no chance if you don't buy a ticket every day, which I wouldn't advise buying a lottery ticket every day, just from a financial advisor
sounds like you're doing.
point of view. Yeah, if you want to win the lottery, you got to buy that ticket every day. But
all right, we had a little bit of technical difficulties there, but we're back. Joel was in the middle of answering the question of how to go from 0 to 1 million subscribers real quick.
Easy.
So I think we just talked about the lottery ticket analogy, but you can just pick it up from there, I guess.
Yeah, get your notepads out. No, yeah, it's just it's really tough to start on YouTube and just go from nothing and constantly see no growth and just small growth. But if you are able to be persistent, I always thought of it as the only person who was going to stop me from succeeding was myself, but would be by giving up, essentially, because no one's going to tell me, like, stop, you can't go farther than this on YouTube. And I always knew it was a small chance. But I was lucky enough to hit a trend on YouTube, and anyone that sees a substantial period of growth on YouTube is hitting some type of trend. My friends and I hit this funny moments trend for gaming, where not a lot of people were making funny gaming videos. People were making more tutorial-style videos, so we rose with that tide. And then when GTA 5 came out, that was the biggest game of this millennium, and we had already established an audience that was familiar with Grand Theft Auto on our channels because we were playing Grand Theft Auto 4 before a lot of people were in 2011. So we were able to hit those tides, but it's not necessarily like we were planning for that. It's like you have to put in the work, do what feels best, what feels true to your style, and then kind of hope.
Hit the trend naturally.
Hit the trend naturally. It's hard to plan for success, and then it's almost more important to plan for failure when you're not hitting those big booms. I mean, when it feels like every day is a sunny day, that you have to remember that that's not reality.
It can end at some point.
Because I'm not in a substantial period of growth now, but I still had 2017. I addressed this in a video yesterday I was talking about I made on my channel. I had a negative tweet sent to me saying I should have quit my YouTube channel after 2013 because that was the last boom we had on our channels is 2013. But my most successful financial year ever was 2017.
Right.
So I wasn't, just by doing other things, by networking and having other deals outside of just YouTube revenue. So some years are going to be bad. I mean, 2016 was my worst financial year. I know that was when we were talking about like different type of like working together type stuff, and I was in a bad mood in 2016, but 2017 was my best year. So that's, I mean, it's just, it's hard to do your own thing, but
it goes back to the point that you're trying to hammer home. I think that we even touched on a lot, and it's interesting to hear it from you too, is the whole lottery ticket concept of I think everyone that hits a successful wave or builds a successful YouTube channel or something like that, in a sense you do feel like there was some lucky thing that happened, but it isn't just luck. You're casting a wide net, you're putting work in, and then there's a reason that break happened. And I think we feel that way as far as like linking up with you. And I think you're saying you kind of feel that way as far as linking up with the crew and doing things like that.
I know you guys weren't putting music on YouTube because you thought, well, maybe someone will see this music and then there'll be some type of collaboration that will happen. It's like you can't plan for being successful. If you show up and create the most possible opportunities for yourself, then hopefully something will happen. That doesn't mean it's always going to happen, but that's the luck aspect of it. I do truly feel lucky to have met my friends. I mean, I sent a message to Speed because he was a larger channel than I at the time, and he could have just not responded to the message. Yeah. And then I don't know if it would have taken me, if I had more months of 0 subscribers, how long would it have been until I gave up? I can't answer that question for myself. I truly felt like I could succeed at doing it. Just some weird kind of innate feeling that I felt like I would be good at this and I can do this really well. But what if he doesn't answer that message? Right. How long do I go without
Well, it
giving
was
up.
funny too when I was watching your video, going back to what you were even saying about the negative tweet that you should have quit in 2013. It was hilarious because 2013 was one of our technical bigger years.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but the disconnect that you were talking about with the fans and the YouTuber is that a lot of fans, they know like what you did in that period of time, and so the nostalgia of it all is like coming back to them and whatever. But that doesn't necessarily mean, because we're going through the same thing as far as we've had one of our biggest years this year, and it was bigger than the year that we put out the parlay. So that doesn't necessarily equate to like, yeah, just because you were in tuned and listening all the time doesn't mean that we're doing any worse than what it was back in the day.
And I was talking,
we're just expanding.
I was
That's
just
pretty much
talking
it.
to someone in the industry that I really trust, and he's really knowledgeable about this stuff, and he likes to think about it like I like to think about it. And he was talking about how it is to the benefit of YouTubers and even musicians, that you guys have kind of touched on this, to play up the charitable aspect of what fans do for their business, to kind of play up that, we need your help. We're struggling. If you could click like on this video, if you could subscribe. And there's channels on YouTube right now. It just feels like feast or famine. I tweeted this the other day right after that negative tweet. It feels like if you don't get 100,000 views per video, you're homeless, which that's not the case at all.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not even, people are like, well, Joel, even if you're not, it's like, no, I'm doing very well for my age. I feel lucky to make the amount of money I do, but it just feels like people are wondering if I'm in a box on the side of the Saginaw Street. So like, it's frustrating that, and it happens when you have channels that are literally millionaires saying that other millionaires are irrelevant on YouTube. That happens all the time.
Yeah.
I don't hate on anyone else's hustle or anything like that, but it creates such a large disconnect to where people are looking at this Social Blade and they think, man, I got entire guy's life figured out just by looking at this one
I
website.
think part of it is that fan mentality and perspective is they get to know you off of one thing.
Mm-hmm.
They know, okay, I like the Specktators music, or I like Joel's YouTube videos, and this is what I'm seeing. They're growing. Their rate of growth here is this. Their rate of growth here is this. The few things they can see.
Yep.
As soon as those things they can see slow down,
Right.
and that's all they know you off of, then they make an assumption in their head. Whereas, like you were saying to our point, and it's similar to you, is, yeah, as far as, the parlay, we dropped it. It was the first album we ever dropped. We had just moved to LA. There was a lot of fan hype around that. It charted high on iTunes. We toured. We did all that stuff. The touring has slowed down. We're still putting music out and everything. There was a period of time where I wasn't putting out as much music because we were growing the label and trying to expand that. And fans are seeing that from a fan perspective. But then, and even us sometimes get caught up in, oh yeah, we got to start getting back to like putting out more music and doing more videos and stuff. But then the year end hits and it's like, oh, we grew. Like we made more money than the year before when we put out way more stuff. And then like we've grown every year.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And even though some years you feel like maybe you didn't put out as much as you wanted to, or you didn't focus on a certain area, as long as you're growing and you can see, like even you said, even if you're not constantly growing every year, if you have a down year, but then you're able to bounce back a year later, a couple years later, that means you're doing something right.
Yeah, that's my thing. I want to make sure that if I'm doing this as a job, and I like doing this as a job, I want to be able to do it for as long as possible. So some people, and I've had this mentality in the past, and I still fight this mentality. It's, are you trying to hit a home run every day, or are you trying to hit singles every day? Because it's hard to hit a home run. Like it's hard to get a video that gets 1 million views. I mean, for some people it's easy. Some people, they do it on the regular. But just for the majority of people on YouTube to get any attention on a website that saturated with so many, there's so many content creators on YouTube, especially now. I feel like you can still find your place on YouTube and still grow. But to even hit singles feels like a big accomplishment. So instead of making a bunch of money just for this 2-year period, I'd rather make, this good amount of money for 10 years. And I really truly think that's possible, but it's about casting as wide of a net as possible and being diverse and understanding that not every year is going to be the lottery. It's going to be sustaining growth.
And that wide net ends up giving you stability because in those down years when you're not hitting the trends and not catching the big jump, you have something to fall back on. And it kind of speaks to even our label. We sign these artists and stuff. Cyrus has another job. Like
Right.
he's not. We're a small independent label. We created what we knew we could create. It wasn't even. We didn't go. We talked about this the other day. We didn't go look at what does an independent label do. Can we do this? We just looked at this is the platform we have. What can we offer artists?
Right.
And in the end, I think when we compare to other independent labels, even though, yeah, up front we're not saying, hey, quit your job, come do music, blah, blah, blah. I think at the end of the day, we offer a lot more stability when your time's up than what other independent labels do that just give you some money up front and then a few years later, you're done.
Right.
Whereas we build something for you. You got to work hard, and we build something, and then the idea is at the end, then you have something, and that kind of speaks to the wide net of you do all this stuff, and then at the end of it, in the down years, you have something to fall back on rather than, oh, that advance I got was gone, and now what? I have nothing.
That's the worst of the music industry to me, giving an artist a lot of money up front, especially when they're young. They don't know what to do with it. And I don't know if one's more fickle than the other, but the music industry is especially fickle. You can be hot one year and you could be, what happened to Chingy?
Yep.
Where's Chingy at? I haven't.
Right.
That guy was my entire middle school existence.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't want to call. Just hate to call him out specifically. Shouts out Chingy. That was the middle school dances were popping. But.
Dude, sometimes you find out, speaking to what we said earlier, as far as us as fans of Chingy, he was popping and all this, and like, oh, what happened to him? He fell off. I hear some stories about rappers like Chameleon.
I was going to bring up Chameleon.
Yeah.
He is caked up right now.
Yeah, so you don't necessarily know just
He's
because
in the
people aren't
tech industry.
popping.
I
Like
know.
it's the same thing you were talking about.
Yeah, that's
Right.
and that's so. Yeah, and I say that as a fan of Chingy, just because I
Right.
want to see how
He could be rolling into like investing and shit like that. You just don't know.
Yeah,
No.
and you have to be able to kind of roll with the punches. And someone was like, "Do you think YouTube is a viable career?" It's like, well, if you, like I said in my video, what if you work in the oil industry and the wells around you dry up? What if you work for an ad agency and they go broke? I mean, our generation is not a generation that's going to work in the same factory for 45 years, get a pension, and retire. That's just not the reality of today's economy. You have to be able to diversify, learn new things, and expect to change careers at least 5 times. I don't have any. I guess I was kind of fearful of that, and especially just doing YouTube full time, you kind of feel like, well, this isn't a real job. And then you start to ask yourself, well, what's a real job nowadays? I mean, automation's picking up and all this, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't worry about it as much as I used to.
No, I think it's I guess the biggest thing that I'm learning so far is just kind of you have to be okay with. I feel we even get caught up in it a lot, even thinking about 2013 and being like, in our heads, it was like, whoa, man, we did a lot of stuff and that was awesome and blah, blah, blah. But that can't sustain in the way that you think that it can. Like you have to go out and you have to do new things to sustain yourself in that career. Because I really don't think even so, like there are few and far between people that have thought of very creative ways that they can keep doing the same thing over and over year after year after year. But the majority cannot. So you have to start thinking about the other things outside of the box that you can do within the same realm of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Or else, yeah, it's just you're gonna have to move. You're gonna have to do other things. You're gonna have to invent other things.
Let me hit you guys with my topics. I wrote topics.
Yeah,
We're
you
going to
said-
run too long.
Yeah, you came with a lot of topics, so let's
All
get
right.
into them.
First one is, we know you in real life about me, and if so, I'm here right now. Do you want to fight me physically?
No, because
you could say it to my
you
face.
have way too much reach on me to want to fight you.
These arms are 70 inches each one. I don't know if that's even true.
It seems like everyone. Cyrus came into the office the other day and asked if and said, "We know you in real life."
People
was about
ask
him.
me in my live stream, they're like, "Hey, what's up with your boy? Well, who's this about?"
I told Joey it was about him. I mean, if the shoe fits, wear it. You know.
I know, that's what I was like. From a philosophical point of view, I think he was just talking about people who talk shit on the internet in general, but maybe there was some inspiration there. Maybe,
there was definitely inspiration.
Yeah.
There always is. Like it's rarely about I'm gonna sit down and write a song about one person that's just pissing me off. But I mean, I think we all know that the "we know you in real life" sentiment is a big is a prevalent disease in our society right now in our age. It's like I think we all know lots of people that live their lives on social media and
People that don't even know that they do
and are
do it.
completely different in real life.
It's
yeah.
like a compulsion. It's funny. I was on a call with a friend the other day who I graduated with in 2009, and I was saying the difference socially between graduating in 2000 and 2009 isn't huge, but the difference socially graduating in 2009 and 2019, your high school experience would be completely different. It's so lived on social media. I remember when the first person in my school had an iPhone. We were like, "What's that? That thing's weird." Like, we didn't. It's weird to even look back. It doesn't feel like that long ago, but no one had Twitter.
Yeah.
I mean, people were on Facebook with their student emails, which you used to have, but there was really
It was
nothing.
instant messaging.
I got my first. Yeah, it was AIM, and I got my first cell phone my senior year of high school, and it was a track phone.
Same. My junior year for me. Yeah, I didn't have when it had a camera on it. That's when your cell phone was hot shit.
Oh,
You could take
yeah.
pictures of
Oh,
stuff.
I didn't have a camera on it. I could just text and call, and it was the T9, whatever it was.
You didn't have a camera on yours?
No, it was a track phone.
I thought we had cameras on ours.
On a
Maybe
track
not.
phone?
Oh, no, maybe not.
No.
Yeah.
Hell no.
Aren't those the ones you could like throw against a cement wall and it wouldn't break? Or those are like the Nokia ones, like those ones would survive
the Motorola Razors,
Yeah.
those were durable as. I
Oh yeah,
liked
people
those.
would break. People would
Yeah.
like throw those on the ground.
That
and
was my
stuff,
next
and-
phone.
Yeah, I can still remember how that felt in your hand when you flip it open and then the keys weren't raised and it's like, ooh, they're built in.
exactly.
So smooth.
But no, We Know You in Real Life was not about you
Okay.
unless the shoe really fits.
All right,
if
move
you
on
want to wear
then.
it.
I wanted to address that up front. I didn't want it to be.
I feel
awkward.
like you're pretty
I felt the energy of it
in
being awkward.
real life and online. I feel like it. You are the same, and partly because of what you do. Like you have to be the same way.
And I'm almost hyper conscious of that even pertains to my name, how I chose my YouTube name, trying to just come across as normal as possible because it's actually a dumb YouTube strategy to just be yourself.
Yeah, it's not very clickbaity.
Yeah. To be a hyper version of yourself, either hyper angry or hyper happy, that's what gets the clicks on YouTube. If you look at the most successful YouTubers in any category, they're either super mad about something or they're super excited about something that is in general not too exciting. People are like, well, you should just vlog your life. It's like, honestly, life is not that exciting. You have to go out of your way to make it seem.
It's
like
kind of
really
like when
cool.
Matt was talking about when Mo was talking about G-Eazy. It's like, honestly, if you want to really get into it and what your opinion is of what's more entertaining to hear, G-Eazy sucks. Like I think he's whack, or is it? I don't think he's that great of a rapper, but he's a really good artist.
Hot takes are
It's
it's
people
hot-
want to hear you say he's
This
whack.
is hot take culture.
Yeah.
I mean, give me your one sentence breakdown of something, simplify all that. All right, I want to talk about the economy of music. This is interesting to me as someone who is not an artist, and I honestly have no idea how you guys make money. I don't care. This is actually. I'm about to tell them about these bricks back here. It's just like, these are not real. I came in here.
How they're gold?
Yeah,
how they're real gold?
I didn't know this is ivory. I didn't know you could get this. Elephants are endangered.
Yeah.
They're paper. So I was listening to this Vince Staples interview. Shouts out to Vince Staples.
I love Vince Staples interviews.
I really, he is hilarious, dude. I just killed 4 hours the other day listening to just Vince Staples talking about stuff. He was talking about how he views music and the music industry. He puts out albums he's signed to a label, but he puts out albums for a very cheap amount of money for that label. I don't know if it's Def Jam. I mean, it's a major label. And his albums, the way he described it, do not cost much to the label, like an independent movie for a major movie studio. And how he makes his money is on tours. Everything he does on tours is his money he takes home. What he makes from his albums essentially is recouping the cost that the label put into the album. So that made me I want to get the perspective on how you guys think about this, and maybe your opinions change from day to day, but as artists, should you be focusing on trying to get out on the road as much as possible, or should it be kind of more of a model, I guess, like Brockhampton's really popping off lately? They've just put out a ton of music on the internet, and then their tours coming from that. Is it connected, or how do you guys see that?
To me, this is not a uniform rule. This is based off each artist has to think about this individually on their fan base and stuff. Label artists, to me, are definitely more on the touring side of
Major
things.
label artist.
Yep. On the touring side of things, like, for example, I think I heard that Vince Staples interview, and it makes a lot of sense. But the thing is, if you put an album out, and I think he even said it, and correct me if I'm wrong, if he puts an album out, it's not like he's doing crazy numbers. Like you said, he's kind of recouping cost type thing. But think of it this way. But he says he goes on the road and sells out, tours and makes a lot of money. it doesn't make a ton of sense that you're not selling many records, but you can just sell out all these tours. A lot of that is label. And I'm not saying, like, he has fans. I'm not throwing shots or anything. It's just to sell that many tickets to a tour, that's label marketing and things like that.
But that's I think it's super important to really break it down and be like, okay, you have, like with us, we have a lot of fans around the world. But for them to all congregate into one spot in one city and have that make sense for us to do is very difficult to pull off, especially in a city that you're not from. So the bottom line is, when these major label artists have this pull, it's beyond just, hey, come to my show and my fans are there. The label's literally promoting it on radio, doing all of these events that are kind of outside of the artist to pull people in to this event, even down to the fact of who's opening for the show. They are very much in control of that. So it's all almost like a promoted party instead of a show, but the artist gets to reap the benefits of all that.
Also, here's our touring perspective. The tours we've been on, we have basically broken even on every tour.
Kind of like reverse.
Yeah. And so the thing is with us, if I got asked to be a opener on a good tour that was sold out type thing,
like G-Eazy's,
I'm on it immediately. I'll pay some money to be on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's great exposure. But as far as our fans being like, hey, I want Packy to hit the road, at some point we will do like a Specktators collective tour. We just have to for the fans. It wouldn't be like a money grab. It would be for the fans. But if I were to go, okay, I'm going to hit the road. I'm going to bring Cyrus, Marcus, Joey, whatever, and we're going to hit the road. As far as from a strictly money perspective, not from a just fan being good to the fans, we are bringing out, we could go anywhere and hopefully bring out like 50 to 100 people. And in big cities more, in small cities less, something like that.
Right.
But money-wise, as far as we're paying for all our expenses, we're getting ourselves to these places. We have to, put ourselves up in places. We're taking care of all these artists and stuff. At the end of the day, A, we're not making money. B, what exposure are we getting if we're just bringing our fans to the building? And C, we're on the road for a couple months and we're not here running the business, making music and making videos and doing things that way.
Right.
So it's just not, I feel bad not having been on the road in a while, but it's not the best move.
You have to look at it this way too, as far as when you're a major label artist, the label is taking a big cut from your music. So it does make a crap ton of sense for these artists, because I feel like it is becoming more and more a thing where the label is letting these artists just take most of what they make from their shows because they want them on the road, and it's a good marketing ploy for them.
And it feels like 360 deals aren't so much a thing anymore.
No,
maybe
it's starting to go away from that because they're getting exposed.
Artists are
yes,
learning.
that is
exactly. But so it's becoming more of a thing. So it is smart for those major label artists to go tour because that is how they make money. But for an independent artist, actually we're losing money because how we make money is putting our music out because we're not giving a cut to anybody.
And
we're making that money.
I do think also 360 deals are disappearing, but I think some of the really prevalent guys you see out there everywhere, I think are in 360 deals. Like not Vince Staples, but like is Yachty in a 360 deal?
Probably.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Probably.
Maybe Uzi in a 360 deal. Is Cardi B in a 360 deal? I wouldn't be surprised.
I would bet probably, because the artists that labels push more are.
That's what I'm saying. They're
because they
there.
stand to make the most money off of them. So guess who's going to get pushed more?
Right.
Yeah. What's interesting to me, I guess it's interesting and it's different for every artist, but I remember having this conversation with you guys before. It blows my mind how Macklemore became so famous so quickly. In 2013 in Michigan, he was in Mac's Bar. Maybe it wasn't 202013. Maybe it was a little. But there was a period of Macklemore was in Michigan 3 years in a row. 1 year he was in Mac's Bar. The next year he was at the Breslin Center, college arena, or maybe it was MSU Auditorium, like a couple thousand seats. And then the year after that he was in the Palace, a stadium.
I think it was the Loft Breslin.
Okay.
because I saw him at the Loft. And
Max was maybe I didn't he go
he
to
was
Max?
at-
It was like a year
yeah,
before the Loft.
maybe it was that, and then it was the Loft because
Yeah.
he was at the Loft and the Breslin Center the same
So
year.
I'm wondering
Yeah.
if he was. I mean, obviously,
And it was a totally different.
Yeah,
his
vibe.
album blew up, but I'm wondering if he was at that point in his life because he became famous in his, I think early 30s, and he was just he was putting out music clearly, but I don't know if he attributes his success to blogs or if he attributes his success to killing a show because on another podcast you guys were talking about what happened to XV is going to put out some new music. I wrote a comment on your last podcast about I saw when Kid Cudi was touring off of Man in the Moon in 2009. I went to that show. Everyone was hype on Kid Cudi in 2009. And Big Sean was at that show. That was when he was just putting out mixtapes. He only performed his Lemonade remix, and then he got off the stage. And that was when
Fire.
Clips was, it was fire. But so, yeah, that was nice. And Clips was doing shows with that. But the first artist on that bill was XV, and he was performing as the lights were on, as people were getting in their seats for the show. And he didn't have like lasers, he didn't have any cool shit. He just had his name on his DJ booth, and he was performing. And it felt like no one was, I mean, people were hyped for Big Sean to come out because he was really popular at the time, but it felt like he was the most hype out of anyone at that show besides Kid Cudi when Kid Cudi eventually got on the stage like 4 hours later or whatever it was. And I went home and I became an XV fan just because of him at that show.
Yeah.
So I guess if you're from the touring perspective, and I'm sure Vince Staples has experienced a similar boom, maybe if Vince Staples is on a Kendrick show and people go there to see Kendrick and they're like, damn, Vince Staples is really good live. Because I've had that experience where I went to go see the Black Keys and Cage the Elephant open for them, and Cage the Elephant puts out an insane live show. And you go back home and listen to their music, it's like, man, this is... So I guess if you're touring, you want to try to hop on something.
Well, I think back to the Macklemore thing, a lot of people forget that between that point in time where he came to Mac's Bar and then he was at the Loft, guess what the biggest thing that happened to him was? No.
He put out some big videos.
Yeah, but even before that,
He signed a deal.
he signed a
A
booking
shadow,
agent deal.
A shadow deal.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's another thing to address that I forgot. Booking agents.
Yeah.
We went through a short period of time where we had a booking agent, and we got thrown on some good shows and started to get some good fans. And that I don't even know why, but that relationship just kind of died. And we haven't. That's the only time we've ever had a booking agent. And so a lot of these acts, like I'm bigger as far as fan base and numbers and stuff than a lot of these guys you'll see that aren't signed. They're independent, but they have a booking agent, and they're on all these festivals and things like that I've never been on because I don't have a booking agent.
I didn't even know that side of it. I guess I assumed that was related to labels, but there's a step if you have a booking agent. Yeah, because you'll see the names of some people that are at shows around here, and it's like I've not heard of this guy, and they're from maybe they're from like a different state or something. And how are they coming here with not like YouTube views that are less than yours or something like
And that's the advantage of having a booking agent too. Not only do you get these gigs, you get paid for these gigs.
Yeah.
Whereas as an independent artist, to get these good gigs, a lot of times you're performing for super cheap or free, or if it comes down to like getting on a really good tour or something, you're paying.
Yep. But I think it is a big thing, especially because he did. I'm not taking anything away from what Macklemore did because honestly, it was all a snowball effect onto like he got the booking agent, then he released all these dope ass videos, then he released the heist. So it was all talented, like,
and a lot of people have booking agents
that was
too. It isn't like he got super lucky and got a booking agent.
But he took advantage of it to the fullest extent at that point. So, yeah, that's the reason why he was so big at the time, because it all lined up for him very perfectly as far as timing goes.
Yeah.
And I think he was, I mean, it's a result of him being prepared doing music for so long that he knew what he needed to do in order to take advantage of that independently.
Yeah, and I felt like that's been a downfall for myself is the importance of the putting up the YouTube videos that get 12 views and going through periods where it's like no one cares about this. By him doing that, by him touring, playing shows for 12 people, he was ready for when the opportunity struck. I felt like I was not fully ready for when each time I've experienced a boom, especially in 2013, that was I just, maybe it was like separate life stuff, but I just was not happy in 2013. I didn't like YouTube. I was doing so well. And I feel like if I were to hit a period of growth again, which happens, you'll see channels, grow, kind of go dormant and then grow again. I would be a lot more prepared for that success. So it's about being prepared for success, and you prepare yourself for that success by going through and doing what you would be doing if a lot more people are watching,
Right.
Yeah.
except when people aren't watching.
Yeah.
All right, I got another topic. This
Keep it going.
This relates to
Wait.
something I think about.
Before we move on, there's one thing.
What?
I was reading an editorial the other day. This literally just popped into my head, but it has to do with this a lot. I didn't realize it was becoming a thing that labels will sign somebody and then they'll purposely send them on a tour without a lot of their promotion to have like
Just to
the
let 'em-
smaller shows.
To let them know what's good or what?
No. It's literally so that in fans' heads they can say, I saw so and so before they were big, and they'll latch on.
Wow.
It's the same shit of the music thing where the silent signing, as far as like they'll put out projects that
Kinda
were actually
genius.
label backed, but everyone can say, I heard him before
So
he
then
was
you
that.
get the diehard fan base.
You get the
before you
diehard
the-
fan base that'll always show up to his
who
shows.
really think they're the diehard independent fan. Wow,
Yep.
that's kind of genius.
Well, that's how they talk about that with like a political person. They have their base. So that's, to me, that would be like building the base. This is going to be the base. They're going to tell all their friends about it. These are going to be the diehards. I saw this person first. I'm going to the show because I love music, and then I get really hyped about the people that are lower on the bill, and I tell all my friends about them.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
That's All right. Now, here's my question that relates to something I think about all the time. I want to know what moving to Los Angeles for music taught you guys, because I often think about this. I've said I'm house hunting right now, and I'm probably going to buy a house around Michigan. A lot of the biggest YouTubers live in Los Angeles. It's probably the pop culture epicenter of the United States. If you were to have a podcast, like I think about wanting to have my own podcast, it would be advantageous to have it in Los Angeles. Everyone's there. Like if you guys had this podcast in Los Angeles, you could maybe get Kendrick on and not me.
Yeah.
That'd probably be
Yeah, for sure.
better for your views. But I want to know just kind of the lessons you learned from that. If you felt like it was the right move, or if I've never asked you guys, just because I don't know if it was a weird question, like why you moved back. I mean, there's multiple reasons.
No, that's
It's not
a good
just,
question.
It's not just business, but it's something I think about myself. Should I be, as I'm probably about to buy a house in Michigan, should I even be buying a house in Michigan? If this is my career and this is what I truly want to do, why am I not in Los Angeles?
That's a good question, and I think to be completely transparent and honest, I think for me personally, and I don't know if you feel differently, I think Los Angeles was a good move and it had to happen, but not because we went out there and did all these things and took advantage of Los Angeles. I think one of the biggest things I learned is that if you're going to be out there, there are big advantages that you have out there, but you have to be very physically outgoing and interactive and proactive. Mo and I are both not the most sociable, interactive people. And so that's one of the things we, at the time, we had a couple of friends, like Bruce was with us, and he was kind of acting manager at the time. But looking back, it's like how much he didn't have a car.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so there's certain things where I look back, whereas if we went, there's shows there everyone goes through Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
If you go and network there and do things like that, meet videographers, meet all these people and go out and physically meet them. It can't just be done online and send out emails and stuff. Like, go put yourself in these places. LA is the place to be. We didn't really do that. There are definitely beneficial things that happened in LA, little things. I mean,
I think the biggest thing for me looking back on it is we really figured out how we wanted to run things in the future, as far as like what you just said. We're not outgoing, like we're going to really try to make all of these connections and everything. So knowing that and being very real with ourselves, checked ourselves and said, okay, if this is going to be a sustainable thing, we cannot base it on that. It has to be the opposite. So how can we be more what's the right word? Like sufficient. And so then we started, okay, we moved to Phoenix, and that was kind of like let's separate ourselves from everything and like literally try to figure out what we wanted to do here.
yeah.
And knowing that a move back to Michigan was probably inevitable, and we really wanted to do that, but being back in Michigan, okay, how do we make this different than what it was before we moved to LA? And that's where the label idea hit.
Mm-hmm.
So that the label causes us to work with who we want to work with, but yet still be very self-sufficient in what we do.
Utilize the best thing we do to our advantage, because that's the thing. You could, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong, it just is what it is. We could have looked at it and been like, okay, we really got to just be more go-getters and get out there physically and proactively and do that
And
stuff.
I mean, you still have friends that live there that are,
Yeah.
like people that are similar from Michigan that are out there,
Yep.
kind of doing the hustle scene.
And it's
So-
like we could, okay, we really have to do that. But when we looked at ourselves, we were like, are we going to really do that? Is that our thing?
Right.
And we just figured we could utilize our strengths and the things we like to do more in a better way doing this. And that's when, like Mo said, we decided to do the label. We thought about, let's, go home and do it here where we have connections and we know artists and things like that. It's cheaper living. It's stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you have people around you that you can utilize. And that's what we did.
And even the other thing is, I don't want to say that it's like we move back to Michigan and we don't have to talk to anybody. It's like literally like, okay, we have the internet. Let's take advantage of that way more than what we have, as far as you can virtually talk to whoever you want to as much as you want to. You don't have to be with those people out west doing that stuff. There are limitations. But if you make a concerted effort to actually do that and to do it in your own way, you can make a totally different lane when what was acceptable back in the day, where the internet wasn't as prevalent, and so everybody was moving to LA because that's what they literally had to do in order to make this work. Not true anymore.
What do you think about that? Like, because you just said you're thinking about buying a house here and stuff, but yet it still crosses your mind sometimes to be elsewhere. What do you think?
So the biggest balance for me is, I know that if I'm moving to LA, there are YouTubers who. So okay, let me back up. 40% of all of my revenue last year came from sponsorship money, not ad revenue from YouTube, not ad revenue or donations or anything from live streaming. It's from doing sponsored deals. That was 40% of my revenue last year. If I lived in Los Angeles, I know for a fact that number would be higher, because there are people who get smaller views than I do now that are doing big sponsorship deals. I know for a fact they're big because of the companies they're working with. And whether I'm not getting those deals just because I'm not out there making connections, like you guys talk about, being physically there makes a huge impact. A lot of these industries, music and online, it's not a meritocracy. It's not the best person to do this job is getting the job. It's often the person who is friends with the person who is giving them the job. That happens so often in life, but especially in these industries. So if I was out there and I was more physically present, then I would be making more money off sponsorships than I already do. That's why it's important for me to go to E3 every year in Los Angeles, the biggest video game convention, because a lot of the biggest deals I've gotten have come from going to E3 and buying someone a drink at a bar.
Mm-hmm.
And but at the same time, like you said, the cost of living, it costs a lot more to live out there. So if I'm going out there, I need to be in my head making almost 3 times as much as I currently make, because everything costs 3 times as much.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's, if I was born in California and that was my home state, I think I would be used to it, because you get used to paying for what you get used to.
Right.
But it's really hard for me to kind of break that Michigan mentality. I'm a tall dude. I have a lot of space out here for, my apartment in Los Angeles would cost like $5,000 a month, I would assume, some ridiculous number like that. So it's tough for me, because I do have friends that live out there. Speed, one of my best friends, lives out there. But at the same time, I just feel comfortable here. And if I'm going to fail, I'd rather, I say it like I've decided, but I still, like I say, I still waver over it. If I'm going to fail, I'd rather fail here in a place I love, a place I feel comfortable in, and surrounded by family and friends, and then just go do another thing.
That's the thing, to step outside of just the business decision. That was a big part of it to us, is we were like, I mean, we did. I loved it in LA. I loved it in Phoenix. And I always said, if I could grab my family and a few close friends and say they're here, I would never leave. But that was a big factor too, is like, okay, I feel like we can do this thing wherever. Where do I want to be?
Right.
Yeah, if there weren't people involved in relationships, then yeah, I would maybe be in LA. But I also enjoy being around my family and my close friends that I grew up with and all that stuff. And so it's like, if I can do this business here, then why not? And the other thing you said, a lot of your percentage of income comes off of sponsorships. So a place like LA where you can make those connections would be good for you. We also looked at it from the opposite side of that coin and said the vast majority of our money is coming from distribution of music, like digitally, which we don't need to be anywhere for that. And also the next thing is merch. And we can do that anywhere too. And so, yeah, it's not to say that there aren't other things that could pop up from opportunities in LA, but if you're just looking at our business, this is where our big percentage of our income is coming, and we can do it anywhere.
Well, and the other thing too is think about like where we're at right now. This office space would cost 4 times more in LA than it does here.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is too, like, the self-sufficient talk is, okay, in order to be self-sufficient, where is it cheapest to be self-sufficient at? Michigan.
Yeah.
Like,
we wouldn't be doing any of this stuff in here.
No.
I think a lot of it is breaking the old world mentality. Just doing music and then doing YouTube in general is breaking this old school mentality. When you were in high school, people would be like, or your teachers would say, you go to college, you get a degree, and then you get this job. You work in the auto industry if you're in Michigan, or you work in an office for a while. I didn't know it's what my parents did, and so you kind of just had to work online for yourself. You kind of have to break that mentality, and then simultaneously, I'm trying to break another mentality of I have to be in this city to do this. I have to be in the pop culture epicenter of the United States to work in kind of a pop culture type job, a media type job. So
I think that's what overall
constantly.
Yeah, I think that's what overall, like, if anyone asked us what we learned from LA, it was literally that there is no question in my head after we had lived there for a year that it was unnecessary for us to be there. That's kind of the biggest thing.
And I do recommend to people, even though it wasn't the best thing for us and we made the move, I'm really glad we did it and know what it's like and know about it.
Right.
Anyone, because we grew up in Lansing, Michigan. It's not a big city. It's in the Midwest. I have lots of friends and people that I've known over the years growing up that I gotta get out of here. I gotta blah blah blah. And if you feel that way, do it. I recommend it.
Sure.
Go
Works
do
for
it for
some
a
people.
year or two.
I feel like you have to do that,
and then you find out if you really like it or not.
You have
and
to know.
Like, you travel a lot. You've been to different places, and you know what it's like to be away from home.
And that's what that's how I learned that I like being at home so much, is because I go to Los Angeles at least 4 times a year for the past 5-6 years. Every time I go there, I think the weather's nice here. There's a lot of stuff to do here, and I cannot wait to get home because this is not my home. This is not what it's like. I try not to hate on Los Angeles because Los Angeles is a big city, a lot of different areas you can live differently, but it feels there's an episode of Black Mirror in one of the seasons where the woman, it's like you gain a personal score. Like if you're nice to people
love that
vote your
episode.
score. Yeah. And that's kind of what Los Angeles feels like. It feels like there's an economy of social interaction to where you're trying to present yourself, and it's like a competition with other people. And I know that, again, if you live in Los Angeles, I don't want people to take offense to that, but it's just from an outsider's perspective, when I go there, it just feels like people act differently towards each other, and I just don't feel comfortable there. But I wouldn't know that if I didn't go there, and I would probably stay there if I didn't have roots.
And because everybody's different too, and even the Midwestern mentality that everybody talks about, and you go and you live out in LA for a year, that is like a real thing. Like, and I didn't even realize, like, you think about it without being there, and you're just kind of like, oh, Midwestern mentality. What does that even really freaking
but
mean?
it is
like everybody. But yeah, when people out west that grew up out west are very different than people here. Yeah, it's. I don't even really know how to explain it on this podcast.
You wouldn't even know why. It's just
it's just really weird.
Yeah,
and there's nothing wrong with it.
No,
it's just different.
All right, interlude. Do you have something to add?
No. Okay. Let's close that topic.
Interlude here. Did anyone hear Fergie's national anthem at the All-Star game?
Yes. Well, I actually left to go get food because the intro to the All-Star game, I mean, it took about 2 hours for the thing to start. When it was from what it was supposed to start, it felt like they did some Broadway play with Kevin Hart, and then he started roasting the players and stuff. Said Draymond had a lot of teeth, and so I was like, damn, some of these people are not happy with his jokes. and then they go to So I'm like, well, geez, I'm going to get food, dude. I'm hungry. And then I come back and I missed Fergie's national anthem. But it was all over Twitter.
You're playing it?
Like,
Dude,
people are
go back,
laughing.
You got to go back to the start. Like,
Okay.
Because it.
I just remember, I hate how she ends it here.
Do you see the gif of Draymond? Like, obviously we love Draymond for being around Lansing, but they kind of like cut his face into, they're like fade it into his face, and he's just kind of staring with his mouth open. And then at one point during the break and her singing, he's just like,
yeah,
he just
dude,
raises
you can
his
see a
eyes
lot
and
of the
laughing.
players and people like Kimmel's like laugh.
She's trying to make the national anthem.
What is this?
She's trying to make it sexy.
Yeah.
It's just like when Marilyn Monroe sang to John F. Kennedy on his birthday, like, Mr. President.
Yeah, what
But
is
you
that?
can't. You don't need to make the national anthem sexy.
No.
Like,
No.
I understand.
Just
putting
sing
your
the
own
shit.
Yeah, just sing. It's a pretty straightforward
Yeah.
song. It doesn't need a
Like,
remix.
It is what it is.
When you're saying banner, why are you saying it like this? Scooby-Doo singing the national anthem. All right, that's
I know.
enough of that.
It's like she's trying to serenade the flag.
Yeah.
Like she's got a flag in front of her. She's like, hey, you
I missed the All-Star game last night,
my
but I caught that on Twitter this
you did
morning,
miss
and I
a
was
lot.
because a lot of people, you never know with Twitter, they'll just grill anyone they don't like or whatever. So I was like, okay, people are grilling her for this national anthem. Let me listen to it, and I went into it with a clear mind, like maybe it's fine, and people are just hating.
And I do think it was because the game took so long to start. I mean, that was, again, not to hate on Los Angeles thing, but I hope the All-Star Game's in Milwaukee next year, because that was the most extra opening to an All-Star
Really?
game I've ever seen. They do like a Broadway play with Kevin Hart and Rob Riggle and Adam Devine, and they're like doing all this like, I want to be a basketball player, and then the intros took like 15 minutes because Kevin Hart had to roast every single player individually.
Why is Kevin Hart a part of every like
he makes
athletic
so?
event?
I mean, he's like signed to Nike, I think, because he has like a
Yeah,
shoe
he
deal.
is,
I
yeah.
mean,
He does?
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, that's what I always think of Dave Chappelle being a rich comedian because he signed for $60 million or whatever it was with Netflix, and that's a lot of money. It was
Hell
like,
yeah.
by the time Kevin Hart's done, he might be the richest
Oh,
comedian
dude.
of all time.
Oh, he
I
will.
mean,
He will be.
probably might even.
He might be right. Yeah, he might be right now. He does
do
with,
as much.
with the movies and stuff. Like he became a movie star.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In
just
addition to
stand
his,
up.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, I just had to throw that little interlude in there.
I didn't have too many more important topics. I just had one that was kind of interesting to me. Before we move on to a more personal topic, is what you could talk about this on a different podcast too if you don't want to get into it. But I'm curious, like, what your biggest mistake is on stage, like a moment where you're just like, oh fuck, because I've seen you. I've seen you live one time at the intersection. I think when you were performing the track, clearly you flubbed a word or something, but it was I don't remember whose show that was because it wasn't your show. There were people there for someone else. I felt like there were
Time
people,
flies, maybe.
yeah, I think it was. Yeah, there's the Time Flies show, and it was something that if people weren't really familiar with it, I don't think they would have noticed it. Just because
Yeah.
I'd heard the song so many times, I noticed it. But is there like
Yes,
a really big flub that sticks out?
I'll
to
do
you?
that like a fair amount, like if you miss a word or something, but only the like diehard fans catch it, and even they don't catch it sometimes. The only thing I can think of, I honestly don't feel like I've had just an awful moment on stage, but there was one relatively early on where we would do kind of like a freestyle type thing on stage where Mo would have his beat pad and I would do I would separately have a separate rap and write bars specifically for this. And I just completely forgot. And I didn't like pick it up. I didn't whatever.
Was this in Lansing? Or was this in
This was
River
at
City?
the Loft, I think.
Oh, okay.
Like really early or maybe
Which show is this?
I don't even
Because
remember.
we did that so many times that
I think it'd be more embarrassing if it was in like Maryland, but if it was at home,
Yeah,
I guess
no,
it's
it was
not too bad.
I was telling because Joey was asking me this, and I was telling him the time that the very first time that we tried this at a show, and me being stupid and having no idea like how like sound setups even work and like latency issues. So I take my beat pad, which is a USB beat pad, and plug it into my computer and expect that I'm going to be able to play that live through my computer, like just my computer interface. And so I'm playing this thing while you're trying to rap over it, and it's like super delayed.
Yeah.
Like ultra
that might
delayed.
that might be the same time. I think
Is it?
that might have been the same one because, like, obviously I'm never gonna be like, oh, you're the reason I
Yeah, that was
fucked it up or whatever. But that was it because
was
I
the
remember talking
worst.
to you about it afterwards. I was like, what the hell was going on? Because I'm trying to catch the beat
Offbeat.
and it's completely off.
Yeah.
And that's when I lost it, and I obviously didn't handle it well. I
Right.
just kind of like stopped and like, all right, let's go into the next thing. But yeah, that was why. We also had, that's been an issue. Remember that Bud Light contest we did, and it was in Detroit,
Mhm.
at St. Andrews, and I think the equipment just like overheated,
Yeah.
and
The
it was,
music
but
started
luckily,
slowing down.
luckily it was our very last song, and it was Neon Lights. And right from the beginning of it, though, it was like the chopped and screwed version
Like the
of Neon
tempo
Lights.
was
yeah.
way down.
And so I was like slowing down my lyrics, and I'm just looking back at Matt because it's always Matt's fault. It's always
that's what I'm learning here.
Yeah, it's not the equipment, it's whatever. Like when I'm on stage, all I have is the mic, and he's back there with the equipment, and I'm just like, I don't care what's happening, you better fix it. But
don't look at me. He's like,
Yeah. Thank God it happened at the end though, because if that would have been our whole set, that would have just been.
just get off stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, nothing completely horrifying has happened on stage yet, and it's just I think I prepare pretty well, and I think that's when you run into problems is when you just lack of preparation.
Yeah. That was interesting to just hear the podcast where you're talking about how to prepare to be on stage and to especially prepare for those moments. Right, you went on a little diatribe about how do you not know what your next song is like? What's that next song? It's like you are the artist.
You're the artist.
Yeah. How do you not know what your next song
Right.
is?
I hate that. That's like my biggest pet peeve
At a
at
show.
shows is
Well, if you
like,
think of it this way, if you're an artist and you tweeted out your set list one time,
yeah,
like the morning of the show,
yeah.
if you said, what's my next song? A lot of your fans would know what the next song was.
Right.
How do you not know what it is? Because you should have known this for a while and been preparing this
you
for a
know
while.
it weeks ago.
But you could tweet it out that morning and your fans would be like, oh, it's this.
I think that's why I hate it so much is because it's literally just like you saying on stage, I didn't prepare
Yeah.
for this.
You might as well just say, "Oh, you're wasting your time."
Yeah.
It's funny.
That's
yeah,
the realness.
but yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to cover before because I wanted to talk about our weddings because we
Oh,
were at
yeah.
each other's weddings.
All right,
But
let's see.
I don't
Do you
know
have
if
anything, Mo?
else to cover? I felt like that's a good closer.
Oh, I was gonna ask, but it sounds like because we talked about it before we got on. I saw Black Panther this weekend.
Mm.
I don't want any spoilers, but it was really good.
Mm.
I didn't know anything about Black Panther going into it, which I think was actually good
Mm-hmm.
because I was surprised and didn't know anything about it. But really,
Yeah,
really
I
well
I
done.
want to see it for sure.
I just don't see a lot of movies in theaters. I see like Star Wars. It's like an event though. So
Yeah.
I mean, they're breaking a lot of box office records with that movie. So I guess if you're gonna see one in theaters, that would be one to see. But
Yeah, Q went with me.
I like
He really
waiting.
enjoyed it.
Mhm.
But yeah, and then I guess the Black Panther soundtrack. Neither one of you have heard it.
No,
Well, I told you I heard. King's
I've heard-
Dead,
I've-
King's Dead's
Oh,
in my
yeah.
Spotify Discover or
Yeah.
whatever.
I've heard like 2 songs and I can't remember which ones they were.
It's really good. Like overall, and it's not
Somebody
just, like,
pop on day.
um,
Hold up.
I think Kendrick EP'd it. No,
He said, well, he said that they
Probably.
wanted. I think he said they wanted him to do one song or something, and then he saw the movie and he's like, "Please let me do the entire album."
okay.
I think so. Yeah, I would assume.
This is
he had
probably
an
my
EP on.
favorite joint off of it. But there's some.
Which
There's
one is this?
This is X. I think it's for 10. But it's got 2 Chainz, Saudi, and I think Schoolboy Q. But it's really like the whole. You guys should definitely listen to the whole album because it's really good. It's not just what you would think. Oh, a soundtrack came out. It's like an
I know
album.
you.
No,
Kinda
I like the
you
2
kind of
songs.
automatically like knock a soundtrack.
Yeah, but
'Cause
it's-
usually it's just like
Right.
the single or whatever.
It's an
that's good.
album.
That's what I initially thought, and then everyone was going crazy about it. So
Yeah,
I
I mean,
figured
it's a lot of Kendrick. Travis Scott's on it. Schoolboy Q, Absol, Vince Staples. It's really good.
Those are a lot of people I like.
Yeah. Oh, the God's Plan music video.
Oh yeah.
What'd you guys think of that? Have you seen it?
Yeah, I saw it.
I thought it was really dope.
Yeah.
I know. I was actually. I guess I wasn't surprised, but I wasn't sure how Twitter would feel about it. But they they loved it.
There's a
Why weren't you sure about?
I don't
what?
know, just because it was such a big song, and then the video was Just like him going around giving money away. It wasn't like a production music video, so I wasn't sure how people would feel about that.
Yeah, but because of that fact, I
like,
just
how can
felt
you
like,
hate on someone giving away $1 million?
You'd be a terrible
Yeah.
person for doing that.
There's a YouTuber that did something similar. Casey Neistat's a large YouTuber. He did something similar with an ad budget. I guess he wasn't giving it away to people, but just that concept of this company gave me a lot of money, and then I'm just going to kind of blow it on stuff.
Yeah.
It is so that kind of made me think of that. It wasn't like a super original idea, but I did think it was a cool idea. Just because I didn't know this was for the video, but I saw on Twitter a week or two ago or whatever it was that he went into a grocery store and bought the groceries for everyone. So I just thought that's an interesting thing to do with your time and money. I guess if you're really rich, you could just go do that.
I forgot
But
about that
I
Casey
didn't-
video.
Yeah, I didn't know that was him doing that for a video. I don't understand why God's Plan is the biggest. Well, first of all, I don't understand what he was doing with those singles because it was. I really like the art and whatever he called that. He called it
Scary Hours.
Yeah, Scary. I was like, man, I wish he put out one of the songs was called Scary Hours. But I like the other song.
Diplomatic
Yeah,
Immunity.
I like Diplomatic Community better than God's Plan, and then God's Plan kind of blows up. I'm like, why don't people? I don't know why he put out two singles together, and because then it feels like, man, I wish he would just put out Diplomatic Community alone, because now it feels like everyone likes God's Plan, and I like
It's the
Diplomatic
hip
Community
hop
better.
versus vibey.
God's Plan
argument
is
all
catchy.
the time.
God's Plan is catchy. Diplomatic Community is like
The
bars
beat is
and
very
good rap.
yeah.
And
Because
hip
I
hop.
agree. I like the Diplomatic Community better.
Yeah.
But it feels like he's gonna I mean, this happens to when you going back to speaking about like G-Eazy or certain artists, when you get to a certain level as a hip hop artist, you might as well, and this is going to sound like slander, but you might as well call yourself a pop star at some point, because the songs that you're going to make the most money off of. I mean, will Drake ever put out something bigger than Hotline Bling? I mean, maybe, but that's if he does, it's going to be in the mold of Hotline Bling, which is not what I would call bars.
Because it transcends genre.
Agreed, yeah.
So
And that's why I also think we talked about it on a different podcast, but I think so much of you said, why is that the one that broke all these records? I think so much of it is just timing.
yeah.
And like, so in the 2-track EP, God's Plan is the first song, I believe.
Mhm.
And so Drake hasn't put out music in forever. And boom, Drake puts out music. It's a 2-track EP. It's called Scary Hours. And everyone goes and listens to it.
Mm-hmm.
So even without people loving the song and replaying it and stuff, it's going to already break certain amount of records or whatnot just from people being like, I want to go hear what this is.
Right.
And people go and listen, and God's Plan is the first one that comes up, and they play it
And they play it over and over and over again.
because it's catchy. Yeah.
Yeah, purposeful choice to put.
What do you
that
guys
one
think
first.
about the 2-track EP in general?
Well, I mean, clearly, I guess not a fan. I'd rather have it be, if it's not 1 track, I hope you got 8 tracks. I don't just because I felt like one track gets overlooked, because whatever the better track is, I feel like you're just going to listen to that one. And I thought Scary Hours was a cool name for an EP, but it would be like I remember when Wiz put out Cabin Fever, and like those kind of, I don't know if those are mixtapes or albums, but I like the kind of the art on those, and I really like little projects like that aren't necessarily. I mean, clearly God's Plan did transcend, but it didn't necessarily feel like he was trying to transcend with it. Maybe he was kind of trying to make it look like I unintentionally, which is what great artists do. They unintentionally or intentionally rather put God's Plan first, and then everyone plays God's Plan. You have the music video ready to be put up.
I have a feeling he didn't have a music video ready to put up. I have a feeling God's Plan and the numbers it did snuck up on Drake.
And then they're like, you got to put a video up for this.
Like, because even just listening to the song, yeah, it's catchy, and I like it. I'm not hating on the song, but for the numbers it did, I can't imagine Drake putting that out and being like, "This is going to be what launches my album."
Yeah,
and
when
like,
you guys were talking about the records it was breaking, that was news to me on
Yeah.
the podcast.
Yeah.
I was
It
like,
was nuts.
it really did those type of
Shattering
numbers.
records.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
no way that he was planning on
No,
that.
I think-
Especially when you have a 2-track EP.
Yeah.
Like he would use.
I think he just wanted to
if
put
he
out some
knew
music.
he would use that for a single for an
Yeah.
album. He would not use that in the way that he did
You'd
for a
tour off
2-track. Yeah, for a 2-track EP, like that
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense.
Well, I know some people. I got some people wanted to talk about MSU basketball with you on the podcast. So, any thoughts on the squad this year? How far are we going to go? What are our chances?
Well, I think it's the most. So my history with MSU basketball starts with the 2000 team that won the national championship. That was when I was 9 years old. So that's about as far back as I can remember. I have
Same.
a terrible memory anyway. So out of all the teams I've watched, and I've watched very closely over the years, we're all big MSU fans here,
Yeah.
MSU basketball fans in particular. It's the most talent I've ever seen assembled on that squad, and I think they should win. If they don't at least make the Final Four, that is beyond a huge disappointment. But that's the interesting thing about college basketball is if you just catch someone, the tournament is single elimination. So if you catch someone on the right night, if the shots aren't falling for one team and they're falling for another team, and they lose, I mean, is that an indictment of their talent? I mean, that can just happen sometimes.
Right.
If MSU and Middle Tennessee State play each other was that 2 years ago in the tournament, or was that the last
couple? I think.
Yeah, that was a couple. Yeah, because Denzel's been in the league.
Yeah.
But if they play each other 100 times, what does MSU win 90 times out of 100?
Right.
90,
And they just
95?
caught
But
'em on
yeah,
that.
they just caught them on the 5. So
yeah, that's what makes the tournament fun.
that's what makes it. But I think this is the most. I mean, Miles Bridges and Jaren Jackson will be two top. I mean, they'll both be lottery picks. I would be shocked if Miles fell out of the lottery.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe because he's been struggling a little bit, but MSU hasn't had two super talented play. I mean, Jaren Jackson could be the number 1 pick. I mean, he has that type of skill set and that type of unique body. And I was looking at this on Twitter and just like looking back on stats and stuff. I think Cassius Winston could be a top 5 all-time MSU point guard, and there are some great point guards in MSU history. First and foremost, Magic. I don't think he'll ever be surpassed.
No.
But so my personal top 5 of MSU point guards right now goes Magic 1, then Scott Skiles, then Steve. Well, I would go Steve Smith, then Scott Skiles, but I guess I could see
Love
Scott-
Skiles.
Yeah, I could see Skiles over Smith. Then you got to put Mateen for his leadership. His numbers were great, but he was a leader. And then I guess 5, I have Drew Neitzel. I mean, it's, and if someone
That's
has
a good top 5.
if someone has a longer, like, because I've looked back and I read articles or like people that have been watching longer, they say like Mark Montgomery in the late 80s, early 90s was really good. But
Steve Smith played point guard for us.
yeah, I think he put up the point guard numbers.
Oh.
I'm pretty.
I
like, he had the
I
assists,
honestly
yeah.
didn't know.
Yeah,
I think in the league
a
he was
point
like a
guard.
shooting
He was
guard.
more of a 2.
Yeah.
I would. So if you just want to. I don't see how if Cassius Winston doesn't if Cassius Winston stays all 4 years, I don't see how he doesn't replace Drew Neitzel. Just with how talented he is,
Yeah.
His sophomore numbers are as good or better than Mateen Cleaves, and Mateen is in that top 5 because they won the championship. I mean, he was a great leader, but Cassius is. I feel like the team goes how he goes when he's kind of being lackadaisical and he'll lose the ball sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You can kind of see the team being lackadaisical, but when they're down, like in that Northwestern game, and they need buckets, I don't want anyone but him to be controlling the ball. Like, I want him to be choosing who's shooting, or I want him to be choosing his shot for himself because he shoots threes at such a high percentage, and his vision is otherworldly.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't teach that kind of stuff. So I'm really, even after the talent leaves this year, I'm hype on the squad for the next couple of years too.
Well, I think a lot of that is Winston, Langford, and Ward. I love, and they're not going anywhere after this year. So
I think Ward's gonna look. He looked last year.
you think?
I think
I just don't think
he hasn't been playing too. He's been getting benched because of his defense, but I could see, especially if they win the. I mean, even if they get close, I could see Ward leaving. I mean,
It's hard to blame a college athlete for leaving if you make a run in the tournament because all the eyes are on you. If you think that's your best chance to go, then I don't blame you. But I just personally, I love Ward in college. I don't see him translating to being a good pro.
You have to go when you have any type of. So there's just recent examples. Darrell Summers should have left after they made the championship with him. They beat UConn with Hashim Thabit, I think.
Yeah,
And he had an amazing tournament
he had
run
an
personally.
amazing tournament run. If he leaves after that tournament run, he's a lotto pick.
Yep.
He doesn't leave, stays another year, has a less stellar senior year than that, especially compared to that tournament run, and I don't even think he got drafted. And then you have someone like Deontay Davis. He probably could have stayed another year. I mean, I know he went because
He went high, though.
He went high. Well, he went first. I think he was like one of the first picks in the second round, and he got.
Oh, he was?
Yeah, he was in the second round.
Oh, you're
He
right.
was supposed to be a lottery pick.
He
or-
might have
or
been
top
the
20.
first pick of
Yeah.
the second round or
Yeah,
something.
he
You're
dropped
right.
out.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
forgot about that.
and
Because
it
he was
was-
projected high most of the year.
He
and
was
then,
he was one of the last recruits at the tables because he was
Yep.
at the draft,
Yep.
and you kind of felt bad for him.
Right.
But I know he left kind of for more personal reasons, wanted to get into the NBA. But when you get kind of like that hype around you, especially if you make a tournament run, you have to go because your stock will never be higher.
And I get that with a Ward. I wouldn't be mad at him there.
Yeah, what if Ward's doing 20 and 10 during
Yeah.
the tournament? I mean, just it's like stupid numbers who, let's say they make it to the Final Four, they're playing teams with smaller people, he does 20 and 10. I mean, he has to go.
The main
he's gotta take
reason I
advantage of
really agree with that, though, with Ward more than even a Summers, which I do agree with you there with Summers, but the reason I agree with it more with Ward is because I don't see his actual skill set translating to the pros that much. And so if he gets hot and has a chance and they're projecting him first round type thing, I don't think staying another
Or even
year
close.
is gonna vault his.
Yeah.
Because that's how it's the NBA is cyclical right now, and the cycle right now is, you could have 4 people under 6'8" on the
Yeah.
floor. I want a good point. I want the best point guard and 4 shooters on the floor.
Shooters and athletic guys that can do different things. Like Ward is a undersized. He plays like an NBA center, but he's undersized and not.
And that's
Right.
why Jaren's projected so high,
Yes.
because he is 6'10", 6'11", whatever he is, and he shoots
And he can
threes.
shoot,
I mean,
yeah.
it's
And he's
those,
athletic as
like
shit.
those players like Joel Embiid. I mean, those players. That was to me watching the All-Star game. That was the most interesting thing to me in the fourth quarter, seeing Joel Embiid on the floor with these NBA All-Stars. I mean, the greats of the greats, Russell Westbrook and LeBron James, and seeing Joel Embiid on the floor. They don't necessarily match up with him too well. Even having like Kevin Durant was on at one point. It's like he is kind of, that's what people want. Like he
Yeah.
is an enigma. He's different.
Yeah. Could you imagine if the Sixers didn't take Fultz this year and took like Tatum or
Even Donovan Mitchell,
or
yeah,
Dennis Smith? Donovan Mitchell. I mean, the
they
Pistons
have-
should have taken Donovan Mitchell. Or
If
Dennis
you
Smith
if
or-
you get drafted by the Sixers, you need to put yourself in a plastic bubble,
Yeah.
because when you get something, they have like
that
a
Fultz
first,
shit is weird.
that is one of the weirder NBAs. What
Yeah.
if he busts out like Greg Oden? I mean, it's hard to feel bad for someone that got drafted number 1 overall in the NBA, but it's like, think of all the pressure that's on him right
Well,
now.
the thing I guess I don't know the specifics of his situation, but you look at a Greg Oden, and yeah, he was a bust, but he had like knee issues and
Injury
all this stuff.
problem.
His game didn't just disappear.
This is almost like a mental breakdown.
Yeah, Fultz literally just can't. They're changing his shot, and he can't
Do you
shoot.
see
now.
those Twitter videos of his?
Yeah.
Like, it's like
He
this
looks
is
like me shooting
disturbing.
when I was in like second grade. Like I'm not even
It
exaggerating.
looks like like a hitch, like a Charles
Yeah.
Barkley.
Yeah.
Also, it feels like I mean, he must be going to some type of. I feel like you got to be talking to some type of coach to like break this down.
It's
I have
so
not
weird
seen
because this
something.
guy was like
And
he played for Washington, so you didn't see him much in college, but he was filling it up. He was putting up points, hitting threes, hitting all types of shots. He was a scorer.
And you got to be able to score. If you're drafted number 1 overall for that position, you're drafted because that's Kyrie Irving. They wanted Kyrie Irving 2.0 at that position.
I think they said he had like a shoulder injury, but I hope that's what the issue is.
And their
but
agents
it
are going
doesn't
back
sound
and
like
forth.
it is.
Yeah, the agent is saying something different than the organization is saying. The
That's
agent
bizarre.
saying the organization mishandled it. The organization saying his weird trainer. He has some weird like cult trainer that mishandled it or something like that.
Yeah.
It's weird. Yeah, but they just with those injuries, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Markelle Fultz. If I'm drafted by the Sixers, put me in a plastic bubble, and don't touch me until we get to the season.
I guess last thing I have, and you can not touch on it if you don't want, but the MSU stuff with all the extracurricular stuff surrounding with the not even the Nasser thing, but the Izzo D'Antonio and the ESPN.
Well, I don't want to do 25 minutes. I don't want to end on a negative topic. I want to end on a fun topic.
Yeah, and we will.
Yeah,
We have
Okay.
with the weddings.
Yeah, yes. So, but because you guys, I said that was funny before we started the podcast. I was like, I like when you guys said you're going to talk about that for like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And that was like a 25-minute
Yeah.
thing. But you read one of my tweets. My whole feeling on the situation is and was, this is something that is going to play out over a period of time. The ESPN piece, especially outside the lines, I didn't really have a reaction at first because I was just so sad about the whole thing, and I still am sad. But when you look at that initial outside the lines report, especially, I saved the picture in my phone just because it was upsetting to me. They had a graphic on the outside the lines report of Tom Izzo, Mark D'Antonio, and Larry Nasser in the middle. Like these three are equivalent.
Yep.
That's what that, without saying it, that's what that graphic
And
says.
Nasser's picture was much smaller than Izzo and D'Antonio's because I know exactly what graphic you're talking about.
Yeah. And it's just, and that's what's being conflated. And I know you guys feel the same way. My feeling is, if Izzo or D'Antonio did something wrong or mishandled something, I'll give me the match. I'll burn the house down.
Yeah,
like that's how I would want them to go. I would actively feel that way.
Right.
As upsetting as it would be. I mean, some of my best memories as a youth are Tom Izzo basketball camp. I met some really great friends there. I remember seeing Denzel Valentine play there when he was really young, like my age. But if that's what happened, I would be disappointed. But it's an investigation needs to play out and is playing out. I mean, they're being investigated by the state. They're being investigated by, I don't know if they're being investigated by like the FBI or anything, but I know the NCAA and the state are doing investigations, which take time. So I am reserving all of my feelings on it until that happens. But with ESPN specifically, putting the D'Antonio and Izzo on that graphic with Nassar it's insulting just for what we know now, and conflating those two. And then the recent story that Paul Levine, the Outside the Lines reporter who broke the other stories,
The
on
first
in the
OTL
report,
report.
the first OTL report, recently put out another story about a walk-on at MSU who I had not heard of, who is currently on the team, and he is being investigated for some minor sexual
Fourth
assault
degree
stuff.
sexual assault.
Yeah, which not that no sexual assault is
Right.
is not, I don't want to say it like that, but and they release his name while he's being investigated. He hasn't been charged with a crime, and that's the local reporters are flipping out about that stuff because they're like, it is our policy not to release names of young individuals, especially that are under. I mean, this affects them for the rest of their careers or life, especially if they're not charged with something. And then there was a Washington Journal or Washington State Journal, or was it the Wall Street Journal? I was getting those confused. Reporter, asked ESPN's PR department, "Why did you release his name? This is their written policy on their site is to not release names in that situation." And they said that's more of a guideline that when the situation dictates, we don't have to. Those aren't laws.
So this
for us.
situation of fourth degree sexual assault that hasn't been charged
They're trying to.
it's necessary to release the 18-year-old's name.
And I think obviously it's important to state our bias of being fans, and we want the best possible outcome from a terrible situation. Yes, I have all of my memories and young. You have to state your bias up front, but at the same time, and I'm on the college basketball subreddit, and some other fans of other teams feel this way. It looks like they're trying to piece something together. They're trying to put puzzle pieces together that aren't necessarily a thing.
I think it speaks to the general problem we have in society, and it's becoming a big problem of guilty when you're accused. And because of social media and because of everything, that was a headline on ESPN.com that this kid was not even charged of fourth degree sexual assault, and his name was put out there. It was a headline on ESPN. That's a problem. And then because we have a horse in the race, though, we actually read the article and we realize that there's a lot of bullshit in it, and that it's just like, okay, he's just like, this is something that's going on. It isn't this kid did this and that's a fact. But people that aren't fans of Michigan State and they just see another headline about Michigan State sexual assault, it's just like if I saw that from some other university and I just keep seeing because I'm not clicking on them, I'm just seeing headlines. Such and such university, sexual assault, such and such university, scandal, blah, 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 blah. With the Nassar thing before that, I'm like, damn.
Well, you want to know the messed up thing, though, about that is like with Travis Walton. Like, they look into it and they they did an investigation and the police even said like it wasn't absurd. We handle. And they gave examples of how many cases they handled the same way as the Travis Walton
weren't
thing.
athletes.
That weren't athletes.
Yeah, as far as pleading it down type thing.
Exactly.
Because there was
multiple cases like that.
Yeah.
And guess what? That doesn't get talked about.
No.
Like, what?
Okay,
and no one's ever, like, very few people are even going to know that, and they're still picturing this whole thing or Travis Walton in this crappy, like, whatever light, because of something that wasn't even proved.
Well, and when you talk about the situation building up with the headlines, it's not the same situation. But I went back and looked at my tweets around the Penn State time, and I like when the Penn State scandal was happening with Jerry Sandusky, and I felt, stating my bias, I felt the exact same way. I was like, what are they doing at Penn State? That is completely messed up. And obviously, some people were fired for that, and it isn't a one-for-one situation, even though, it is being, they are kind of unique in their situations. Neither are great, but as an outside observer, I know that this is going to paint the university and both of those coaches in a light for the rest of their
it already has.
Yeah, it already has.
And I guess without, like you said, you don't want to talk for 25 minutes about it, but here's a big question I've had throughout the whole thing, and it's to the why Izzo and why D'Antonio. Why? Okay, so there's this whole concept right now of, so there's a potential sexual assault. A girl goes to a counselor or something who then will go to or claims to go to the coaches or go to the athletic department, right? And then maybe they go to the law enforcement. Here's my question. Why, if you are sexually assaulted or raped, are you going to an athletic department? Why are you not going to the cops? And if you go to the cops and if at any point this goes to law enforcement, why are we getting, and when I say we, I mean ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we getting on these coaches? Why are you not mad at law enforcement? If you're upset that something happened and then nothing came of it,
Right.
if it was reported to law enforcement, why are we not mad at law enforcement then? Why are we mad at Tom Izzo and Coach D'Antonio? I can't answer that.
Well, I mean, you don't know the Lansing police commissioner's name, Tom Izzo and Mark D'Antonio. And I think I do see it kind of like
it's a cover up, right? They're like,
yeah, they're like there's
everyone's in on it together.
Yeah,
the puzzles they're trying to put together is this is a systemic problem from the president of the university down, and
we're including law enforcement in this.
Well, the thing I want, especially what I want to come out from this is, and I'm sure this will happen at other universities, not just Michigan State University, and I think it should, especially with the cultural movement that's happening now. There should be clear and concise things that happen when someone goes to a counselor, because I think it would be easier to go to a counselor and say you were sexually assaulted than straight to the police.
Agreed.
Because there are some, I'm obviously I've not experienced that, but there are things you have to come to grips with. I was drinking too, or just I can totally
you have
see
to
why
talk it through. You can't just be like, hey, I was
totally
sexually
see why you
assaulted.
wouldn't initially go to a police department. But that's the other thing. At what point it should go counselor, police, and then if the university knows, there should be clear and concise guidelines for how this is handled, at what levels there are escalations.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I hope that is what is going to come out of this, that it will be the silver lining of a otherwise terrible situation. And I hope that's what happens. But just to kind of like to summarize my whole thoughts on it, it kind of made me think about, I've never been so sad about something at my home. Like when Megan and I were watching people testify at the Larry Nassar trial, and again, it's hard to, you don't want to conflate the two things, like the MSU being investigated and this twisted individual, but just it is a whole, it's happening all in our hometown. I mean, there were people I saw talking at that trial that I did not know that happened to. These are people I know. I know everyone I know in my real life knows someone that lives around here, knew people that were there, and I was like, I did not know they were going through that, and it just made me so incredibly sad, and it kind of changed how I view heroism. Like growing up, I used to think it's so great to see Tom Izzo coaching now, because I know that when I'm older, I will be able to take my son to a statue of Tom Izzo and say, I got to see him coach. Mm-hmm. And now I think about, someone like Rachel Den Hollander is more deserving of a statue, not because, it's not a comparison, but what she did in going against some of the biggest systems in the United States, going against the NCAA, going against USA Gymnastics. And if you just read any articles about what Rachel Den Hollander, what she did, how she prepared for it, all the notes she took, all the books she read and medical books, that I would hope that there's like a statue of her someday on campus, and multiple other women that came forward.
It forces you to put, we're all big sports fans, it forces you to put things in perspective.
And remember that it's still sports. Exactly. At the end of the day, it's just a game.
Yeah, and that's why I said, even though I hate all the ESPN stuff about Izzo and D'Antonio, I said from the beginning, if the rule was in place, or they felt just because of the Nassar thing that all MSU athletic programs were, suspended for a year or whatever it was, I would not be talking about because the whole Nassar thing was just egregious to the university.
I think that's the only reason why we spent so much time on it last time, is because I like to take it as like it's ESPN and the media that really grosses me out as far as all of this stuff, because I look at it like, dude, what if I'm in Izzo and D'Antonio's shoes and like let's just say they didn't do anything. How fucked up is that?
Yeah,
like
I know.
That is absurdly messed up.
I know.
And the thing is, the media will never, like, they'll put a little blurb at the bottom of some article if this all comes back and they're all clean and whatever, and oopsie, we made a mistake,
and honestly,
type of a thing.
It's kind of gross to speak to,
but that doesn't help.
To what Joel was saying about like these women that came forward and these girls that came forward and how difficult that was and how fucked up of a situation the Nassar situation was. It's kind of gross on ESPN's part to take that and immediately go to Izzo and D'Antonio and try to find this witch hunt type thing. You're immediately pushing to the side what just happened with all this other stuff,
right?
And like these girls that testified and all these things, as far as I know, has nothing to do with Izzo and D'Antonio and all this stuff. It's specifically this Nasser situation and higher ups at Michigan State, like the president and athletic and things like that, but not Izzo and D'Antonio. But ESPN immediately shoves that to the side and goes after what's going to get the most clicks.
Yeah, and I think it's possible to simultaneously be upset with that, but most of my anger and sadness about the situation and whenever I think about it, obviously that's very unfortunate what's happening, and if, like you said, if they didn't do anything, I cannot imagine how it would feel to be in those shoes and just know that you've done right most of your life. You try to do the right thing, and then this is happening to you, and you're going to be painted like that for the rest of your career. But most of my sadness and anger about the situation is that I lived 15 minutes away, 10 minutes away from the worst sexual predator in American history for my entire life and didn't know it.
Yeah.
And I, knew people that went through it without knowing they were going through it at the time. And that's like what my head always goes to more than, like I just think about it. It's at the end of the day, it's just a game.
I'm with you. The main reason, the other thing I think is the most interesting thing to talk about is because, like we've said before, I think everybody is in 100% agreement on the Nasser thing is fucked up and it's an embarrassment and it's sad and it's all that. So what's the discussion to have about it? The other thing, not to make Izzo and D'Antonio more important than that. It's just there's a discussion to be had.
And like you said, that case is, he's been convicted. So that's how it lives on is through stuff like this.
And just to be careful from then on, as far as let's not label everybody a sexual predator at Michigan State because of one guy. That's not...
I hope it does change the kind of the culture at Michigan State, though. I know Michigan State's known as a big party school, but I hope if I had sons especially, I would want to raise them to be this is how you treat women. You don't, you be respectful with people, and I just hope everyone. I know I'm married, so it's not something that I think about directly, but I think about in how I would raise children. The sexual culture and the party culture. How you.
Well, I hope, because it gets taken a step further as far as that there has to be some sort of, and I hate using the word cover up because it just sounds like, oh my God, it's a cover up, blah blah blah. But this is a big, huge university. And many people's livelihoods depend on this university being held to the standard that it is. So, you better investigate a lot of people in this thing, because
and I'm totally for that.
Especially I think they just fired the dean of the whatever the physician. Wherever, because Nasser worked in that building with all the MSU sports medicine stuff that I know I've been in for sports injuries, and maybe you have been in if you've had any injuries. But there's a lot of people that work there, and like you said, for someone, he was in a position of power.
Yeah.
So it's speaking truth to power. If you just learning from this experience about you can be that powerful and still be a monster, and that's how he was able to do that for so long.
And I do think there probably are people that need to be investigated and be dealt with. But that's the thing, is it just goes back to the fact of take a step back for a second and realize ESPN doing what they're doing right now.
I think that
it would be different if they literally just left it at, there might be a culture of whatever at Michigan State. Boom.
I think the bottom line
left it at that.
I think the bottom
instead
line,
of dragging
to wrap it up and put it in a nutshell, is just everyone is open to investigation, thinks everyone needs to be looked at, all that thing, but you don't ruin people's lives and reputations,
specific people without proof
until things actually happen. You don't just do it off hearsay, whatever. All right. So how, typical podcast fashion, we start a topic by saying, all right, we don't want to talk about this for 25 minutes, and then we talk about it for 25 minutes.
That's all right.
But yeah, I just, when that article came out, this was the latest one, I was like, I want to talk about it this week.
No, and it's new. We're a little further, and there will be more to talk about as it goes on. It's gonna be a thing that lasts a year, maybe.
Right.
Okay, how can we transition from that into finishing on a more pleasant topic?
Well, I wanted to talk about our weddings, because I was at Matt's wedding. He was at my wedding. Both of you guys were at my wedding. Both of you guys were at his wedding, obviously. I wanted to mention about his wedding. I don't know if the people on the internet know this, but you gave one of the best man speeches I've ever heard.
Thank you.
I was at a table with people I didn't necessarily know. It was myself and my wife, Megan, and then some people I didn't necessarily know, some females at the table. And every female at the table was crying except Megan, which is good, because if Megan was crying, I'd be like, what are you crying for? Was he making you emotional? What is it?
You didn't cry when you married me?
Yeah, yeah. I didn't see these tears at my wedding. Where are these coming from? But I just wanted to compliment you publicly on this. I don't know if people know. He really knocked it out of the park with that best man speech.
Thank you.
It hit me. I got a little teary-eyed, but
it was good.
On the other side of things, I had a very emotional experience in the negative light with my friend Matt here at my own wedding.
Oh yeah,
both of you, all of my friends. It's weird at your own wedding. You are usually sober, hopefully, because you have to.
You're the soberest one in the building.
Yeah, I have to talk to my high school buddies while simultaneously talking to my grandparents who don't want to see me smashing on my mind.
Yeah.
So if you're typically going to be sober,
right?
And you two got a little lit at my wedding. You were at the table.
Little?
Yeah.
A little.
I might have never been drunker than I was at your wedding. I swear. That's not an exaggeration.
You were at the table right next to
we
the
got
open
pretty
bar.
reckless.
I positioned the youngest people, well, obviously of age to drink, youngest people of age to drink next to the open bar purposefully. I want, if I'm paying that much for an open bar, I got to get my money's worth.
Take advantage.
Yeah, you guys you better drain them.
And we did.
Yeah,
we did.
And I definitely got my money's worth. So as it's getting late in the night. A lot of people have left. The only people on the dance floor are the people my age. And Megan and I come back from whoever we were talking to. We kind of meet in the middle of the room and we look at. My entire family was drunk. I've never been around I drink around my family. They drink around me. But I've never been the only sober person when my entire family is drunk. So that was a very weird experience. Yeah, that is a very different experience. My friend, my dad, like dabbing with my high school friends to whatever music they were playing. So as I go to leave, Megan and I are leaving. We're gonna go up to the honeymoon suite or whatever. It's like real wedding time stuff.
That's it.
Yeah, and that's it. So yeah, we're going to leave. We're just the two of us, and I don't know where he was. He was in a broom closet or something. But this Matt, we're in the hallway outside of the wedding venue. Our wedding venue was connected. It was in a hotel, so we had a hotel room. We're walking up, and he just comes. This young Matt here just comes out of nowhere, and just comes up, puts hands on me, and says, "I just want you to know, Joel, I love you so much. I had so much fun at this wedding. No, I don't. I want to shame you because I love emotions in a man. But
I do not remember any of this.
He doesn't remember any of this. So it's like we're talking about a different person. He was crying as so all the thoughts going through my head are like, my wife, this love, this awesome thing's gonna happen. There's a jacuzzi in our suite, and this Matt comes up and it's like, Joel, I love you so much, man. I just want to say. He's like almost put hands around my neck like it was prom. Like I thank you so much it was such a beautiful ceremony, and I love you.
And no one was around.
No, it was you, me, and Megan. Just in the hallway, just you. I think you were coming back from the bathroom because the bathroom was downstairs. So you like came up and you saw us and you were like, I gotta go talk to him real quick about this.
I have never heard this story.
Yeah, and he was and just tears streaming down his face. It was extremely beautiful. But I was just
hilarious.
Like that. I just. We had to take as we got up to the suite. I had to take a minute to compress from the emotional journey I went through here because I was, I had my mind, a one-track mind on something, and then I got kind of taken out of that by the emotional and lovely Moe-T.
That's so funny because I was probably wandering around somewhere.
I don't know where you were.
with my eyes closed.
Yeah, you could have been on the.
Well,
sidewalk.
we both woke up after that night, and because I don't remember probably the last hour of that.
Yeah, and I was told.
Reception.
Yeah, and you went off and had some more fun after for what I was told. You were.
I think we went downtown.
He was hanging out. Yeah, he was hanging out with people that were at our wedding. I think one of Megan's friends from out of town. It's just like just a random mix of people.
I remember waking up to some
I remember
text
meeting a
messages
lot
from
of
numbers I didn't know who they were.
Yeah, that was the only thing.
Whatever. At least I woke up in my bed.
I just wanted that to be on wax. That the last person I saw on my wedding night. Before a magical special moment happens to consummate a marriage is a crying Moe-T, and it was one of my favorite. It's my favorite story from my wedding. I wish it was recorded so we could. That
would be funny to look back on.
Yeah, if there's like a security, if we could go to the Kellogg Center, get a security camera, see like
it's even funnier with no audio on a security camera. Just like he just comes and walks up to you, and then
he's just like falling all over me, and he's like got his hands around my neck or something. I'm like, oh my God,
dude, that is
like, do you want to come with us? We got a jacuzzi if you needed to compress.
That night was like my adult wake up call for me of like, this has to be the last
dude,
time.
it was for me too.
Yeah.
Seriously.
You're too old to be doing this. And I don't think I've like officially blacked out since then.
I seriously, it was. I woke up and I was like, dude, you got to get your life together, man. Like this can't, because I had so many text messages too from people that I didn't know who they were.
Yeah.
That I was like, dude, you were that drunk. You were getting numbers from these people, meeting these people, and you didn't even bother to put who they were in your phone. Or
Well,
anything
that's
like
that's
that.
kind of how
And you don't remember meeting any of them.
That's kind of how weddings can get though, because we didn't know. Like you sat us at a table or the whole wedding in general, I guess. I knew a few people who like they're not my closest friends, but they're good guys, and I know them.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was you, me, and Canton.
Yeah.
Was Bruce there?
No,
I think
he
Bruce
missed
was
it.
go.
He was invited. But he
Yeah,
couldn't
he
go.
missed
Okay.
it.
So it was just you, me, and Canton.
Mhm.
And then like the table we were at where I know a few of your friends.
Yeah,
and
it was you guys in my high school buddies.
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
And
Because we didn't
so-
go to the same high school.
But yeah, as
Yeah.
far as like really knowing each other well, me, you, and Canton. And
Yeah, that
so
was
the
it.
rest of
Yeah.
and yeah, you just
right
start.
next to the open bar.
Yeah, you
Like,
start
your
drinking
table.
and
You could touch the open bar from sitting in your
yeah,
seat.
Yep,
that was a
yep.
problem. All right, anything else? Anything else we want to address for the people? This won't be the last time Joel's on the podcast.
Yeah, I guess save some topics if you guys
Yeah.
want to have me back.
I feel like there's
I'll
a lot
save
of
some stuff.
lot of things that we can touch on in the future that we didn't get
Yeah.
to today. But
Without going like insanely
this
too
is probably
far
already
into-
what, like a 2.5-hour podcast?
There's no way, dude.
No.
Really? 2.5?
No.
I don't know.
No,
Oh, damn.
it's
was
almost 2
11:30.
hours. Yeah,
Ooh.
Good shit though.
after the technical difficulties.
All right. We don't have the number for you to call in yet.
No, we're still trying to figure out what we want to. Okay, let's not blame this on me.
I still think we should have fans just tweet videos because I think it's easier. If you don't think you look pretty, you don't have to even show your face. You can
Yeah,
aim it at the ground. We just need the audio.
we'll
but-
see. Maybe we'll do both. Maybe I'll come up with a techie way in order for everybody to do both, so it doesn't eat into my time too much. But whatever, we'll see.
All right.
Next podcast, I will have that decision ready. But until then, we're outering out to Packies like this since I didn't get it right last week. So
Shout out Joey Alana, the newest artist on the Specktators. Go check out Heat Check and check him out. He'll be dropping new music within the next couple weeks.
At Joey Spectators.
At Joey Specktators. Go follow him. Show him some love.
I don't know nobody that can do it like this.
Good shit.
I've been on the ground like this, like this,
is
like
fun.
this. Do you like this? Don't nobody do you like this, like this, like this. This is my shit. You be like, this about as good as it gets. Do it like this. Do it like this. Look at my click. Look at my click from the jump like this. Got over the hump like this. Now we up, like up, like up. Now we up like this. People like tough like this. Never give a fuck like